You can order a simple $12 bowl from Chipotle, but by the time it gets to your house, that Chipotle bowl is $30. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Beverly, and today I wanted to talk about why you are potentially broke. Now you may say,
well, I don't make enough money. I have this, I have that.
But there may be a lot of things about you and your lifestyle that's keeping you in a state where you can't grow financially. And I'm here to tackle that. And more of it is rather a mindset than a lack of funds, because there are people who make $600,000, $500,000 a year, but yet have $0 in the bank account or have a negative net worth. And there's people who make about $40,000 a year and they have 30K in savings, they have a house. It's all about the mindset and how you manage your money and how you think about money. I wanted to tackle some of those mindset matters that is keeping you broke. So Dave Ramsey posted this quote and I thought was genius. And he said, "I'm not against you having nice things. I'm against nice things having you. If you can't pay cash for it, you can't afford it. Act your wage." What that means in our society is that through credit cards and through loans and through essentially debt, we can have the lifestyle that we want to live. However, you have to have that mindset of nothing is free. Nothing is free. And if you essentially at that moment can't afford it without using debt or credit cards, you can't afford it. And in some instance, it's okay if you can't afford it at that moment, if you know you can pay it off later on. But if you know, I can't really afford it, but I'm just gonna pay it off all this time. If you know you can't afford it with your current and potential funds and you're just gonna pay it off slowly, depending on what it is, that can have a detrimental effect. So I wanted to talk about the top 4 mental matters of what is keeping you broke. Let's get into it. 1, impulse buying. Even though I'm talking about this, I'm talking to myself. An impulse buy is when something you didn't need at the moment, you weren't thinking about it, but you see it and you're like, I gotta have it. You see the newest iPhone comes out, I have to have it. You see these cute shoes at the store, I have to have it. These are all impulse buys because you really weren't thinking about it until it flashed in front of your face. And the thing about it, sometimes you're like, oh, just a one-off, but how many one-off impulse buys that you have? Because if you keep on having those one-off impulse buys, they keep on stacking up. And before you know it, in the month, you spent about $1,000. Now, you didn't save as much as you wanted to save. You may have paid less on a bill that you were hoping to pay off quickly. And this all adds up because it wasn't on your trajectory. And especially if they're small little items, you think, oh, it's okay. And this is where I'm gonna tell myself, DoorDash. I was picking up a habit, I'm calmed down now, but I was picking up a habit of getting DoorDash like every other day, or at least maybe like 3 to 4 times a week. In DoorDash, you can order a simple $12 bowl from Chipotle, but by the time it gets to your house, that Chipotle bowl is $30. Essentially, I just wasted $30 on that, where I could have just drove to Chipotle and bought it. But because I was lazy, I decided to spend a fee on that. I get a lot of sales that comes through my email of 40% off, this Labor Day sale, this buy one, get one half off free. And I'll look at the website and I'll click and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need those shoes. I need a black leather skirt. I will convince myself that I need it. And because it's a sale, that this was just a great opportunity. But before I even opened that email, I wasn't thinking about those items that I needed to purchase. And that's why it is an impulse buy. When you weren't thinking about it before, it's not something recurring. Like groceries isn't an impulse buy. You always need groceries. Things that you need are not impulse buys, but because I saw something and instantly I wanted it, that's why it's an impulse buy. So when it comes to dealing with impulse buys, my rule of thumb is that wait 24 hours and see if it still captures your interest. In that 24 hours, think about things that you have to pay for. Think of other obligations that you have to pay for. Think about if you're meeting your goals. Think about, how much do you really need it and is it going to really add to your life? Think about how much do you really need it and look at your bank account several times to see if you really need it. Now, I'm not saying you can't have an impulse buy once and this there, but also think about your last impulse buy and how many impulse buys you've had in the month. And this will let you know if you really need it. The next thing that's keeping you broke is keep keeping up with the Joneses. What this is that you see if your family, your friends, everyone has this and this and that, it's trendy, and so it makes you want to have it because you feel less than, you feel like you need something just to keep up. You feel like you're going to be left out of a circle, left out of a movement, left out of, just generally left out or less than. The people that you surround yourself with or that you look up to have something that you don't have. And this, especially with this age of Instagram, people on Instagram will think that if you're not traveling every other month, if you don't have the latest car, if you have an old iPhone, if you don't have Fendi print, that you are not successful, then you are less than, and then you don't have your stuff together. Sometimes, one, always take things at face value. A lot of people on Instagram are fronting. They either use that as debt, they have either connection so they can just floss with it as an advertisement and give it back, or they either have it, but they're broke in a lot of other aspects in their life. Just because you see something on Instagram, take it as vast values. You don't need to keep up with certain people. You have to really focus on your own needs and goals to make you successful, because with trying to keep up with the Joneses, you may end up broke. You don't know if the Joneses really have it all together. The Joneses are a persona, and your bank account, your life is not a persona, it's real life. So you want to make sure that's together. I would say definitely watch your need to keep up the Joneses. Watch it when you want to buy something. Is it because you want it because other people have it, because you see other people living better than you, or is it because you really need it and actually really do like it yourself? And that does segue into my next point, is getting into debt for things you cannot afford. Now, and like I said earlier, because there's things like loans and credit cards, and does make us think that we can have anything at our fingertips, but essentially if you cannot afford it, or with your potential income, then maybe it was not meant to be. And I only say this with certain things, and I say this with the exception to a house mortgage and college debt, and I'll get into that later. But if you get into debt because you need to buy a $60,000 car, you want to travel, you want to do this and this and that, and you're like, oh, well, I can break it up into payments and payments and payments. You have to think, there's things when it comes to debt and credit cards that you have to think about, and that main thing is compounding interest. And if you don't pay a certain item off in its terms, they're gonna tack on interest. A lot of that interest is super high, and that could be anything between 15 to 40% interest. So if you bought something on impulse for $1,000 and you don't pay it off in time, and you have that sitting in your credit card because you have a high limit, and if they tack on a 20% interest, that is $200 that they just added to your bill. And then if you don't pay it off in the next year, that $1,000 plus that $200, and they're gonna attach another 20% to another $1,200, and that's how it keeps you in that bad cycle of just paying it. And then when you finally have the money to pay off that $1,000, now you're left paying off that interest and compounding interest and compounding interest. So if you don't have the money to pay for it at the time, and you don't feel like it's super necessary, like, and I give that, and this is the case, like say for a car, you do need a car. Like if you need a car and you need to finance your car, that is perfectly fine because you need it. But you don't need to finance a Birkin bag. You don't need to finance Louis Vuittons. I wouldn't even recommend financing furniture in your home. I'm a believer in saving for it and just paying it off and not dealing with debt, because you just don't want to owe someone, and you don't want to owe someone with compounding interest. And this also leads to the next point that I have with getting into debt for depreciable items. Buying things that are super unnecessary and in time, or things that will lose value very quickly or is more trendy. For instance, buying the latest style that all the celebrities are wearing. For my example, Fendi, Michael Kors, and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's bad to have a few. I have a Michael Kors bag and purse. Definitely, if you don't have the funds to buy it and you haven't taken care of your other obligations, maybe you don't need it. Especially things like, say, Michael Kors bags. Because remember, like Coach was a big thing. I used to hate that brand, but now no one really buys Coach like that. So you spend a whole bunch of money on a brand back in the day. No one really buys it like that now, and it's depreciable, because say if you wanted to sell it, no one's gonna buy a Coach bag for $300. At least I'm not. I do understand that there's things that are collector's items, like say, I believe Jordans. I'm not a sneakerhead, so someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but like things like Jordans and stuff that are collector's items. So you may buy it if you like it or if you actually are looking as an investment. Things that depreciate in value, like especially even a car. Buying a super expensive car, as soon as that car leaves the lot, it is losing value. Unless it is like a vintage car or something like that. Yes, I don't believe in buying just the most rickety car to get you from point A to point B, but I just think you just need a decent car. Like for me, I don't need a Lamborghini to ride around in. I don't need a Mercedes. I don't need a super luxurious car. I'm fine with my simple car that gets me from point A to point B and doesn't give me a lot of problems. I don't recommend buying a cheap car that breaks down every 2 seconds, so you're always adding money to repair it. Or even like say buying brand name clothes, that's unnecessary. You're buying Yeezys that are hella basic. Even for me, I don't buy expensive jewelry because there's a lot of fakes and dupes out there. So like right now, these earrings were probably like $5. I don't see the need of buying something that's say $300 that will give me the same look. I also wouldn't purchase AirPods because one, I can see myself dropping them, and I just don't see the point. I think those are also more trendy as well. So, and I also don't think you should do fake brands. Like don't get a NK bag or anything like that. You don't need to fake the funk, but just a nice simple bag. Not everything has to have a brand to it. Now when it comes to a mortgage, a home is an investment property. If you get a mortgage, which is a debt, that is a investment property. If you want to use it as investment property, a REIT, or if you want to use it as your future home where you can live, maybe eventually give down to your kids, that is reasonable. And because that's an investment, because that has longevity and it has potential to even make more money. So those are definitely good. Or even if you get a college degree, get into debt for college, if you know what you want to do or you want to have a degree that you see potential in, if you get into debt now for it because you know it will benefit you later on, those are investments. Or if you want to get into debt to start your own business that you believe will be profitable, those are investments. So those are things that I think is worthy. Those are things that are worthy of getting into debt. So I hope you found these mental matters helpful. Hope some of these tips and really kind of identified some of these things that may be holding you back from your financial success and goals, and hopefully can help you when it comes to how you spend and how you manage your money. And I believe if you can tackle these mindsets, that will save you a lot of money and help you achieve your financial goals. Because remember, the goal is to be financially successful. So please like, comment, and subscribe on this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you later. Bye.